last year, 71% of realtors in the United States did not sell one house. If you have the growth mindset and you can get ahead of the change and be prepared, it can really lift you up rather than kick you down. It is such a dynamic, emotional, and litigious career field that you can't afford to make a mistake.
All right, welcome to the Beyond the Transformation podcast. This podcast is just a platform to give business owners a space to talk about their journey and what got them to where they are. So today I have the pleasure of speaking with Chuck. Chuck, will you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey?
Hi, I'm Chuck Gollop. That's really it. No, my name is Chuck Gollop. I'm a retired police sergeant, did that for about 25 years, went into stand-up comedy for a couple of years, and then out of complete desperation became a realtor. So I call myself the accidental realtor. And I've been a real estate team leader for going on 10 years. I run a team of agents that covers a lot of Minnesota, a lot of Florida, and a little bit of Wisconsin.
Amazing. That's quite, one of the intro questions I want to ask is just, how did you stumble into running a business? Because that's something that most people don't ever end up in a place where they're like, I'm going to be running this on my own. And you said, years in the police force and then stand-up comedy, and then you just stumbled into being a realtor. How does that happen?
It's, I get this question a lot, and everyone asks, first of all, why are you in real estate? And isn't that totally different than police work? And I always say, no, it's not. It's basically the same job. It's dealing with difficult people, writing difficult contracts, being on your phone 24/7. You just get shot at a little less. I mean, that's really about it. Less, not completely going away. But I was severely injured as a police officer. So I retired about 12 years before I planned on retiring, and I needed a plan. And I had felt very stunted in government work because government is just a crappy model for management. I found something, tripped into a career that allows me to be entrepreneurial and run my own business and do things the way I want to. And once the handcuffs, so to speak, came off me, I was able to run with it. So it's really been just an amazing, as you said, journey.
Yeah, that's incredible. So how many years did you do in real estate before you're like, I want to put together my own team and I want to attack it from the business side of things?
So it's funny you asked that too. So I was in a supervisory role in the police department for about 12 years. And when I got done with that, I said, I'm never going to supervise or manage anyone ever again because it is soul crushing. It's wonderful. And it's the most fulfilling thing you can do, but it's also soul crushing. But I got so busy in real estate instantly that I needed help. So, and people tend to gravitate toward success. So if you're moderately successful, people are just going to start calling you and asking questions. And pretty soon, I need help with showings. I need help with grabbing lock boxes. I need help getting signs up. And the young agents who don't have enough business just kind of gravitate toward that. And then it just forced me to go back into my role of coaching. And I think I was exactly 2 years in the business when I started my team. And the team has grown exponentially since I started.
That's incredible. So what year exactly did you end up starting that team?
One. So no, yeah, I know.
You look good for your age.
I know. Thanks. It's Botox. 2018. So I got into real estate in 2016. I got really busy exactly 6 months into the business, and then it never slowed down. And 2018, I switched brokerages and started a team at that new brokerage, and that the team's been in existence in one iteration or another since that time.
That's so cool. I mean, I only have a brief bit of knowledge in what it is to lead teams, and man, it is exactly like you said. It can be the most fulfilling, and then there's also times where it is crushing, and nothing's going your way, nothing's going right. And I guess I do think when I see business owners, especially like even being in business, that would be 8 years now in your business, almost. A lot of businesses don't make it that long. So, especially in your industry too, like in the last few years, there's just been so many changes. And how do you face those head on? How do you keep your team motivated in going? Maybe speak a little bit about that and some of the changes in the industry currently.
Yeah. So I think our industry, more than any industry in the last 5 years, has been under fire, and some with reason. And that's why last year, 71% of realtors in the United States did not sell one house. 71%. That's three quarters of the licensed realtors in the United States did not sell one house, which speaks to what's happening in the economy. I mean, it's so global. But I think the key to surviving and staying motivated, as you stated, are to constantly stay abreast of the changes. And our industry is so dynamic. The legal challenges that we faced last year, and what everyone thought was going to be the end of the world,
Mm.
it was just key to stay ahead of it. I've been preaching this for about 2 years, that this settlement was coming. We had a big settlement with the National Association of Realtors and the court system, and just training ahead of time. So when D-Day hit, we were trained, we were scripted, we were ready to confront it. And I think most people saw it as a pleasant challenge. And most people, at least on my team, came out of this with massive growth. And if you have the growth mindset and you can get ahead of the change and be prepared, it can really lift you up rather than kick you down.
No, that's really good. 71% is astonishing to me. That's crazy. I mean, that just points to how difficult it is. And if you can come out the other end of that, your team's better for it. I kind of want to transition because I'm 24. I'm a younger guy, so I'm at the point now where my wife and I are like, hey, when's the right time to buy a house? And I know the realtor shtick is, the best time to buy a house was yesterday. The next best time is now. From that, how do you advise maybe first time home buyers or young people trying to get into a home, maybe in regards to programs, or when is the best time? Obviously, now is always best, but what would you say to that?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. I bought my first house when I was 24. I was a cop. I had a stable job, and I thought I should own a house. I should not pay rent. So I lived with mommy and daddy till I started my police job. I moved out at 22, and I rented for 1 year, and then I bought a house. And I took that equity from that first house, and I bought a slightly nicer house. And from that house, I bought a slightly nicer house. And from that house, I bought a really nicer house. And so before I even left police work, I had leveraged all this continual equity I was building into what ultimately now we have two houses. And a lot of it's just starting with that equity when I was age 24. I have a house in Florida, a house in Minnesota. So I know it's cliche to say, yeah, the time is now, the time is yesterday. But one thing I preach to especially first-time home buyers is they talk about, well, the interest rate's so high, I just can't, it's just so much. My monthly payment is like $500 more a month. Yeah, $500 a month. That is huge to most people. That's, $6,000, $6,500 a year. But if you look at the growth in equity for that same house that you would have bought, typically you're going to see 10% growth per year. So you buy a $300,000 house, you just made $30,000. You spend an extra $6,000 on the payments. Yeah, that sucks that month. But if you can afford it, your net equity is $25,000 that year. And you're living in that house, I don't care what you say, Jake, when you show up for that first house, you're like, this is our forever house. I'm like, no, dude,
Probably
it's not. It's not. This is your equity house. So let's build some equity and get you into the next house. But I mean, imagine if you get 10% growth 3-4 years running, you just made $100,000 and spent an extra $20K on payments, but that's a net equity of $80,000. Long answer, but I think it's
No,
so
that's good.
important to understand that.
No, that's good. I mean, I think too. I mean, not to try to inflate your ego at all, but I do think that's what separates like an okay realtor from someone who actually has knowledge, who can field a question like that and actually make it make sense to people. Because I'm sure you've seen so many people where it's like, my husband's cousin's so and so is a realtor, I'm going to use them. Well, how many houses have they sold? They're probably in that 71% who didn't sell a house that year. And not to knock them, but there is a value in going with an expert who has years of knowledge. I guess that leads me to, like, can you speak on where that knowledge comes in being the most valuable, to how you can advocate for your clients maybe in a way that an agent who doesn't have as much knowledge couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it goes. Have you heard of the 10,000 hour rule?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So that was huge in comedy. It was huge in police work. It's huge in real estate. And if you think of the number of hours, I mean, no hardworking realtor works 2,080 hours a year. They work, 3,000, 4,500. Crazy amount. So if you are working hard as a realtor, in 2-3 years, you'll hit your 10,000 hours and you're going to be good. You don't want to hire that one transaction a year realtor or your buddy or your cousin that does it 3 times a year. And I get that you want to do a favor for your sister's brother's uncle's boyfriend, or this guy, really nice guy, and he's just trying to really start up his business. So I get all that, but it is such a dynamic, emotional, and litigious career field that you can't afford to make a mistake. I mean, how many of you would? How many? I'm talking like all the listeners are watching. How many of you in the audience
Yes, that's good.
would get in an airplane with a guy who's flown 20 hours this year? No way, especially in a commercial airliner. And I've seen this over and over where people try and like do a for sale by owner house because you don't need a realtor. All they do is they throw it on the MLS and they collect their check. No, man. I mean, the stats for the National Association of Realtor are that 80% of the litigation that comes out of real estate transactions occurs in for sale by owners because they don't have someone advising them, or they don't have someone going, Jake, I know you think your house is the Taj Mahal. It's not worth that much money, and here's why. And back it up with fact. So a very, very long answer to your question, but you just need someone who has the practice and the experience and the skill set, because there's a skill set involved in real estate. I never saw myself doing this job in a million years, and here I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've browsed for, just for fun. We're looking at all these houses, and I'm absolutely astonished some of the for sale by owner. You can just tell because I'm like, this is the most valuable asset you'll probably ever own. And you're posting iPhone photos and you didn't clean your living room. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's crazy. But anyways, no, that's good. I guess maybe changes in the industry. What are you seeing? I know there's been some legal battles and all these things, but as someone from an outside, I just hear slightly about it. I don't know exactly what's going on. How much of that is more so an effect on the realtor? How much of that is going to be an effect on the buyer?
Yeah, I think the people who, I mean, I'll be blunt, I'll get editorial. I think this whole, you're referring to the National Association of Realtor lawsuit that occurred because they were alleging price fixing and the consumers weren't aware that they had an option not to pay the buyer's agent to show houses. And everyone thought that was the end of the world. And everyone thought that this was truly to protect the consumer. And I think it has muddied the water for the consumers. Now we are required, before we even show a house, we have to have something in writing saying it's called a touring agreement. People are really hesitant to sign this form. And it ultimately demands that to even look at a house, you're signing a contract because the realtors have been threatened with massive fines. So everyone is actually, for once, doing it. So I think ultimately it hurts the consumer. There's a little more discussion that's happening for my agents on the buy side and the sell side with consumers. And I think that should be happening anyway. This forces the discussion. But ultimately, nothing has really changed in the industry for the agent, especially the good ones.
Cool. Good to know. Good to know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like you just see the buzz and you don't always know, and you're in it. You're in it, so you understand what's going on.
Yeah, I'm definitely in it, man. August 17th of last year was, I mean, I kept beating the drum saying, everyone pay attention. This lawsuit is coming. This is going to be a thing. I was like, oh, come on. That'll never happen. When it hit, man, it hit. I mean, I'm fortunate to work for a brokerage, eXp Realty, that is, there's 90,000 agents. My little team of 15 people is nothing. But our CEO really took the helm, and he did a Facebook Live video on his proposal for how to handle compensation from a seller to a buyer's agent. 50,000 people watched that live video.
Wow.
50,000. I mean, so, our brokerage is really leading the charge. I'm really excited to be with this brokerage.
No, that's really encouraging and to hear too is like, anytime it's an industry like this where there's a big transfer of money for an asset, it's like if you're working with someone who's not on the forefront of knowledge, you can really get in some sticky situations, and you don't want to drag the process out any more than it has to. I guess, I mean, yeah, process. Let's just. I would love to hear a little bit about like what does it look like to work with you. Don't worry about getting long winded on this, but just kind of how is it like to work with your team? They nice people? Are they cranky people? What are you gonna expect when we call your office?
Yeah. Well, so here's the deal. My team, honestly, guys, we suck. I wouldn't work with any of these people. No way. No, I'm kidding. No, we have a great team. We have a lot of varied experience. My podcast is called The Accidental Realtor, and it is really about how I fell into this job. And so we have a lot of ex-cops. I'm involved in some advocacy group for retired cops. Used to be very active in the police world 150 years ago. So naturally, those people gravitate toward me. But I mean, we have a full-time comedian. We have some people that, one was an HR manager, a couple servers. I mean, we've just got people from all walks of life. And so we can usually find the person that is going to fit with you. But my business partner and I, my best friend, we started in law enforcement together. We both retired at the same time. We both got into real estate at the same time, and now we're teamed up in the last few months. And the wealth of experience that we bring and are able to combine just really has elevated our team training. So you're going to get well-trained agents that know what they're doing, that have really good support, and they're, fun is part of it, and they are
Yeah.
fun, but the competence is the most important part, because that's what sneaks up on you and leads to trouble. So if you call our team, you're going to get someone that's going to be a good fit for you, and they are going to get it done, and they're going to take care of you, because the client is number one.
That's awesome. So let's say I'm trying to buy a house. I call your office. How does that process work? How much time should someone, right now be trying to plan for to buy a house? Now I know it's different case by case if they're very particular, but how long does that process usually work if it's going to be done right and not rushed?
Very good question, because I do have people, especially people your age, that actually I'm dealing with some family members that are about your age, and they kind of disappear for a while, and then they call me. I need to see this open house today. I go, whoa, we got to get your other house on the market. Yeah, we'll get to that. So some people, like, they want to go. I mean, and in those people, yeah, we can make it happen. I've closed on a house in as little as 7 days for a client. And actually, I think it was 4 days. It was really quick. And I have some people that take years, but the ultimate way to do it is to meet with a lender, figure out your lending needs, take the time to get all your documents in, get fully pre-approved and underwritten so there are no surprises at closing. And the good lenders will completely do that before they give you a pre-approval letter. So that could take a couple weeks. You got to get in all your tax documents and all that other stuff. And then you're going to start searching for houses in the meantime, and you should take your time. You should look, even if you see the perfect one on door one, you should still go look at 5 others to realize if that was an emotional decision or if that's the house for you. And then you should really vet that house with inspections and appraisals, and maybe call in the city to see if there are any permits pulled, or what's going on with this porch. I wonder if something ever happened. So really, it should be a 4-month process, probably. If you're really, I would never take 4 months either. By the way, I'm very impulsive, but generally, I mean, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now this is probably off from any of your business stuff, but it's a question I'm just curious about because I don't remember what year it was, but it was a couple of years ago where houses were just going. It was just hot. Like I would see a house listed in my neighborhood, and all of a sudden it'd be sold, and it'd be sold for like 150,000 more than they bought it for. So it was
Mm-hmm.
a quick flip. I'm just curious, in any of those situations where they probably forego an inspection and whatever, have you heard any stories where, people get themselves into a really bad house that just looks so pretty?
Many people
Many.
during that time were doing that. The only way you could get a house was to forego inspection. We have a flyer we hand out about the 7 things you need to do in multiple offers, and people were doing crazy stuff. And I would have a client that I'd meet and I'd counsel them, hey, this is crazy times right now for real estate. Every house has 10, 12, 20 offers on it. And we'd walk in and they go, okay, we go 5,000 under. We'll start there. I go, no, I mean, no, that's our offer. I go, okay. So we'd write up 4, 5, 6 of those. And each one you see their heart breaking just a little bit more. And finally on the last one, like, nope, we're not going through this again. Let's throw everything at it. And they would. They'd write, $20, $30, $50,000 over asking. They'd have to forego inspection. That's the only way you could get your offer accepted. There's a lot of buyer's remorse going on with those houses. I saw a stat recently. I want to say it was like 20% of the people are like, oh, we shouldn't have bought this house. And that's, I'm guessing here, but it happens. But those people, the flip side of what I told you before about the equity that you build, yeah, you're buying in negative equity, but in the 3-4 years, those houses have not dropped in value. So they didn't lose any equity, and their payment that they saved on with that super low interest rate also was a really good formula. I wouldn't say that that's a lasting formula for our economy, but for those people, they probably did okay. They'll probably sell it, make a really good amount of money, even though they spent way too much on the house. That's what the house is worth now.
Mm. No, that's good. Yeah, I've just heard we had I was in another BNI group and we had a home inspector in that group and she just had story after story of they threw up a beautiful black backsplash over a moldy wall or all these things and she's like, dude, this is the most expensive thing the majority of you will ever buy. Like, do not rush this. It is, I guarantee you, that you are not this rushed to buy a house. There will be houses for you.
We have our inspectors always use this buyback program, and maybe she talked about it at that BNI meeting. But we've actually executed on that buyback program where the inspector missed something, and the inspection company bought the house back.
Wow.
And that was before that time, but during that time, I saw so much fraud in terms of sellers' disclosures. And we haven't even touched on this, but about half my business is in Florida, where I live half the year. I'm here right now. And the fraud and sellers covering up, because there are so many environmental concerns in Florida with termites, mold, water damage. So many sellers cover that up, put lipstick on a pig. I have an investor he buys a lot of houses in the Orlando area. He bought 2 houses where the seller had a leaky pool, put some silicone on the pipes, reburied the pipes, sold the house, and like clockwork, exactly 60 days later, the pipes burst again in the pool. So my poor sellers bought 2 houses where, it was a significant investment after the fact. But it's in Florida real estate. Wow. It makes Minnesota look really, really good.
Wow. That is crazy. I mean, just the difference. And so you sell in Florida, in Minnesota. Those are the 2 states you're selling in mostly.
Yeah, my team actually covers 4 states. And when I say my team, it's the team that my partner and I run. Florida, Minnesota, South Carolina, and Wisconsin. But primarily, I'd say 80% of our business is Florida. And out of my personal business, it's about half and half, Florida and Minnesota.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So now partnering up, that's fresh, right? That's new. Cool. And I guess with that, that kind of, I'm so curious, what are your goals for growth with your business paired with his? Like, you have that team of 14, you said, do you see that team being even bigger or I guess what's the plan? What's the goals with that?
Yeah, I think, I never like being in an echo chamber. And sometimes my partner, Steve, frightens me a little bit because he and I think too much alike. I want someone to go, no, terrible idea, dude. Absolutely not. Steve doesn't do much of that, and I don't do much of that. So I think the key is that we have to force ourselves to go, we're not going to do that today. But I would say, our really good number for us right now probably is about 20 agents. And we're actively hiring. And we're bringing on some really good people and some really key players that are going to help us in both of our main markets. We hit the ground running with basically stripping out our training and our knowledge and starting from scratch. And so we have just been in nonstop training and growth mode. But we've got a lot of programs we're excited to roll out. we're starting an investment syndicate for our agents where we're just as a team going to start buying properties. So our agents can get the taste of what it's like to own some doors and be in a landlord and be in a flipper and make some money. And that's something we're going to do as a team. So we're really excited about that. We actually literally just did the paperwork yesterday. So, and then I think it's about reasonable growth, not explosive growth, and it's about training everyone and making them the best realtor they can be. So we don't end up in some of those weird situations that some of these people do.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that I love that about your leadership because just like lifting up the team below you, I feel like in just societally, a lot of people it's like I'm gonna pad my pockets as much as possible. I'm gonna just and then the work provided from the team is just subpar at best. But when the team has full buy-in and they know that the leadership truly cares about their own financial well-being and knowledge, like that's very cool. I guess how does that work? How do they are they buying into that and then they kind of own it as a collective?
Yeah, it's basically a co-op. Steve and I will be the majority shareholders, but whatever we're still working out the final detail of that part. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
generally, we'll probably have a minimum buy-in for our agents and like a platform fee. But other than that, it's whatever they can put in. We just want them to get a taste for it. And I've had agents in the past that have never owned a home, and I thought, yeah, I don't know, man. You should own a home if you're going to be selling homes to other people. And it's the same thing. I mean, realtors, 35% of the buyers in the country right now are investors. So you have to cater to investors. And what better way to cater to an investor is if you're one yourself?
Yeah,
Uh,
you can see it from the side that they see things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as mentioned, I mean, there's no quicker way to build wealth. If you look at, oh my God, I'm trying to think of who's the big hip hop star is super wealthy. Everyone goes, wow, he's been really successful. Yeah, partially from that. Oh, it's Snoop Dogg. That's who it is.
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. I mean, he makes
Yeah.
bank on his albums and his promotions and his commercials, but you know where he makes most of his money is real estate.
Hmm.
So it's just this. In any book, I love reading. So the book, The Millionaire Next Door, and other books like that, just talk about how most of the wealthy people in our country have real estate and build on real estate. Despite all the chinks in the armor lately with our economy and the NAR news that we talked about, it is always the most stable investment. It does better than my investment portfolio by far. We're going to make
Yeah,
10% a year.
that's so cool. Yeah, I mean, we can be cynical about it or we can be optimistic. I feel like that's the only way is to be optimistic that the tides will change because I mean otherwise what? You just don't act, you just don't move. I mean, it's there's always been ups and downs in society. To act like now is the first time something like this is happening. It's pretty
Right?
wild. So I mean that's really cool. I This is off that, but I thought of when you were saying you want your agents to like own a house. I was thinking of a car salesman who you see him biking into work every day or something like that. Um,
Did Jerry just change out of spandex?
no, that's really good. No, I mean, I think we hit on a lot of stuff about what you do and in your team, and people will be able to gather a really good picture about what your team does. And I guess I just want to give you just a little bit. Where can people find you? What is the best way if somebody needs to buy a house or just wants to ask some questions? Maybe they're not ready to buy yet, but just want to start a conversation. What's the best way they can contact you or find your team?
Yeah. Well, my name's Chuck Gollop. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I have all the channels, gollop.com, better or callupgollop.com. Those are both the best ways to at least link to my website. But there aren't too many Chuck Gollops in the world. So the best way to reach me, I have people Facebook message me all the time, Instagram message me all the time. Those are probably the best ways to reach me. Um, and if you're able to, I'll give you my digits that you can put up on on the
Yeah,
screen.
I'll link everything or I'll pop it up. Yeah, I'll link everything here.
It
Yeah,
should be fun.
I don't
I
have that. I don't have that plus where Jake Johnson is. I cannot tell someone to look up my name. But
Yeah. Which Jake Johnson? Jake Johnson 17 at MN. That guy. Yeah, I know him. I know him.
Yeah, Chuck. Well,
But
thank you so much for talking. I really appreciate it, and I just hope to stay in touch and connect more with you, and yeah, we'll just be putting this up and hope some people can see it here soon.